Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Undefined. And today I'm very excited because I am talking to Brian Cannon. He is the owner of Microdot Creative, and he is a part of a lot of the iconic photography, design, and layouts for a bunch of bands, including the Verve. And we are going to talk a lot about Oasis. And he is behind things like the Definitely Maybe art, all of their singles from the 90s and more. So I'm excited to talk to Brian about that. How are you today?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is like very topical, the reunion, and you've done some work for these live 25 shows. How has that been for you?
Well, it's been great. It was great to be back involved. Noel Gallagher rang me himself last December to tell me about it, and the first thing he said to me was, "Can you play the drums?" Obviously joking, and I said no. But he said, "Yeah, whether you like it or not, you're designing the world tour program, which I've done. So even though the tour's only just started, I obviously finished it a while back, so it's
Mhm.
been ready for production. But no, it was a great laugh, and just Um, working with Oasis is always exciting because they're an exciting band, obviously. Just dream project, dream come true once again.
Oh, that's so awesome. And I was really excited when I saw that the tour program was on the merch list because I go to a lot of concerts and a lot of stadium shows and arena shows, and I feel like tour programs aren't, I don't know how they are like overseas, but in the States, I really don't see them that often. So what was like kind of Oasis's decision to have that program? Because I've seen even massive tours like Taylor Swift, there's no programs for that anymore, and I used to love collecting tour programs.
The thing is, it's the only one bit of tour merchandise that Noel specified that I had to do. The
Mhm.
rest is handled by the merch. In other words, what he was kind of saying, not that he's not bothered about it, because he obviously is bothered about it, but he specifically wanted me to do the tour program so we could do something very special.
Mhm.
And what we did was we looked at the Oasis merchandise has all been handled by Warner Music this
Mhm.
tour. So I got them to send me some previous examples. I mean, I've obviously done tour programs before, but
Mhm.
that was back in the 90s. And like you said, not many people do them these days. I think Coldplay did one for their last tour, Ed Sheeran, big
Yeah.
artists. So
Mhm.
I asked Warner's to send me some examples of stuff that they'd done, and they did. And me and Noel came to the conclusion that they're all the same, really. They're all just pictures of the band that you've already seen, basically. Just
Mhm.
a bunch of old pictures just laid out. And we thought we'd do something different. I presume you haven't seen the program yet, have you? No?
No, no, I haven't seen it because I don't go see them until September.
Okay. Well, the program is 50 pages long and it's quite big. And it's the same shape as the same size as a vinyl record, LP
Oh
size.
wow.
And of the 50 pages, I think there's 5 pages with pictures of the band in it. The rest of them, there's 25 pages of black and white pictures of empty rooms, basically. And it's literally, and it's the tiny little venues that Oasis played in when they first began. And well, that's kind of it. We just thought that'd be interesting to show the history. It goes all the way from the boardwalk when they first played the first gig, right up
Mhm.
to Nebworth and Glastonbury, and loads of small, tiny little venues, all beautifully shot in black and white, showing the history of how the band grew. And that's the mainstay of it. So, it's something different. It's got a fantastic response. People are raving about it, and I'm very pleased with it.
That's so exciting. And I wanted to know from just overall your perspective, because you've known them forever since the early 90s. And then when did you meet Noel exactly? Because you've done like all of the early, did you do their first, you did the Shaker Maker stuff or you,
Everything they
yeah,
released in the
everything.
90s,
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah, so
everything,
you've known them
everything.
way before. Yeah, that's what I thought. So like from seeing them back in the 90s and then like having that break and then seeing all this happen now and then, having your shop open and seeing kind of just the pandemonium, like Oasis Mania happening again, like in Manchester, how they kind of took over. Like how has that been from your perspective as somebody that's been there through the entire history?
It's been remarkable, I mean, there's nothing else like it. They never, if you think of it, I mean, I'm not comparing Oasis to the Beatles because I'm a
Mhm.
massive Beatles fan, and all sorts of people start freaking out if you do that. I'm with you, Beatle
Mhm.
people. I think the Beatles are the best ever, but it's the only thing that comes remotely close to it. I think, certainly in the UK, anyway.
Mhm.
And the Beatles never got back together, so we'll never know what
Yeah.
that would have been like. And none of the other big ones did either. Like the Smiths didn't, the Jam
Mhm.
did. So this is unprecedented, right, in its scale. And I think if any of those others had done anyway, it wouldn't have been. I mean, it's just you cannot believe what it's like in this country at the minute. It's like it's
Mhm.
bananas. I mean, it's beyond the gigs. It's Manchester, like you say, was taken over for like a 10-day period.
Yeah, it's like
Just
all the shops. Yeah, I saw videos on like Instagram and TikTok, like all the shops were custom and they had like vendors.
people come from all over the world. I mean, in our shop alone, I mean, there must have been half of Italy in Manchester. The number of Italians that had flown into the country to see him. There's never been anything like it, and I can't see there anything being anything like it again in my lifetime. Anyway, I think that's it. It's just truly unprecedented.
Wow. And it just makes me happy to see how they can bring so many people together from like all around the world and like people like my age, like I'm 24 and like I've gotten into them fairly recently and I know some people are weird about that, but I feel so connected with their music that I don't feel for a lot of bands. And so I think it's so cool that these parents bringing their children, all of these people traveling all the other countries, like just to experience that, I think is like so awesome.
It is because I think, like in the States, in the UK at the minute, divisive times. I think, there's
Hmm.
certain politicians. I'm not going to go into the politics of it all, but there's a lot of people
Hmm.
trying to divide the communities in both countries. And I think this is just the one thing that just unites everybody. Everybody can just forget about all that nonsense and just, have a good time for once. And I think something that brings so much joy to so many people has to be a good thing.
Oh, and live music is just an example of that. Wanted to hear more about your story, and you've been working with them since the very beginning. How did you get into design specifically? Was the Verb kind of you were working with them for a while before Oasis, but what was your kind of early intro into design, and what made you decide that I want to do album sleeves, I want to do like branding for musicians?
Well, what happened was I was 11 when the Sex Pistols came out or became big, and punk rock sort of blew me away. I suppose all kids are into music and some, just generally what's in the charts. But when I was kind of 11, I got into sort of what I call serious music,
Hmm.
and punk rock and the Sex Pistols blew me away. And I thought I really need to get involved with this. And I tried forming a band, but realized I just didn't have the patience to learn to play
Hmm.
guitar. But I'd always been interested in art and drawing and such like, so I thought I could marry the two disciplines together and do some art for the music that I love. So that's where the
Hmm.
idea came from. And that was I was dead young at that point, like 12. This is late 70s, this.
Hmm.
So I specifically set out to design record sleeves. Uh, and through a series of lucky breaks, but you make your own luck. I put myself in a position where, I mean, the first lucky break I did this sort of New York style hip hop graffiti on this wall in
Hmm.
Wigan. 1985, this was, before it'd even been seen in this country. And that was my first break. I got discovered by this producer who then got me into do artwork for the bands he was working with. And it all just took off from there, really. Because I think the most difficult bit of any young artist is just getting your opening break. Because why should these big record companies or anybody for that matter give you a break, give you a chance when they've already got some guy that they've used before? They know he can do the job.
Yes.
You're untested. You have never done it before, so why should people take a risk? But because I got this lucky break and I got an in, and it all just snowballed from there. And then I started working with the Verve, 1991. Again, I'm lucky break. I met Richard Ashcroft at a party.
Hmm.
That's the singer, obviously. Um,
Yes.
Before, when he was dead young. And then I met Noel Gallagher in a lift. We were talking about Adidas trainers. It's just crazy coincidences. But in all of those cases, there was something relevant to talk about in terms of the fact that I'd created some art that started an interesting conversation, you see. So, yeah, I got the Oasis job on the back of the fact that Noel and I shared a love of obscure Adidas trainers, and he found out that I'd done some work for the Verve previous to that. So that all took off from there as well. And on it, I'm still making it up as I go along, you know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
just been one hell of a ride.
Wow, that is so awesome. And then, so just like your inspirations, like just in general, doesn't have to be for Oasis. Like when you were getting started and learning about and what you wanted to create, were there like go to record shop and look at the record jackets and like look at the labels? Was that something that you were always fascinated with like photography books, like things like that? Because I love to look at things like that.
Well, whilst I knew I wanted to design record sleeves because I was in love with the music and all the rest of it, I never
Hmm.
really looked at other record sleeves for inspiration. A lot of my inspiration comes from paintings. Oh, I'll show you one here, actually. One that's on the wall there. One sec.
Yeah.
This here, you see
Oh
that?
wow. Yes.
That's a picture called the Arnolfini Wedding, which was done like 600 years ago, something. I think
Yeah.
it was 30, 50, I don't know, 13, 14 or 1500, something or other, by a guy called Jan van Eyck. He's a Dutch fella. Uh, and this is kind of where Definitely Maybe comes from. Now, it doesn't look anything like Definitely Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Notice on the front of a lot of my sleeves, there's loads of tiny little visual metaphors telling little stories or hinting at things. That's what this is like. All these little things within the painting mean something. So that's kind of where I was coming from fine art influences.
Wow,
Um,
yeah, I can see that too. Like just when you held up that painting, the way it's kind of structured is like definitely maybe you're like here now is gonna be like a painting too, because you can look at it and oh, like part of a house, and then you look closer, oh, Rolls Royce is in the swimming pool, and then you see the scooter and you see everything there,
exactly.
and it gives you time. Like you can have it up on your wall, and then you can look at it and point out things that maybe you didn't see the first time.
Exactly. That's what things that you might have had the same picture in your collection for 10 years. Oh, hang on a minute, I never noticed that. I think that's important to make stuff interesting.
Yeah, and I love the definitely maybe a cover for that reason too, because I mean I feel like each time I see it, you can pick out something like the globe or like Noel sitting on the couch, and even just like the composition of them in the living room, I think was a great idea. Was that the original idea, or did you kind of workshop that through a few different stages?
No, no, every one of those sleeves was meticulously planned out before we shot them. And they all ended up looking exactly like I had in my head before we started it.
Mhm.
And that was always the point, research and preparation. So nothing was ever left to chance. We didn't experiment. We knew what we were doing exactly on the day we were doing it. And yeah, they were all pre-planned.
I was watching some of your YouTube videos and I offered the, do you know what I mean? When they went to Wiggum and how you had the examples of you sketched it because it was them in the crowd
Mhm.
and it was a controlled crowd of your friends and family. What was the process like working with Noel? Because he was your main collaborator when you were doing stuff with them, right? Would he come up with the idea or would he give you a basic idea? You know what I mean? He told you that he wanted to be in a crowd, and then it kind of had like a religious connotation at first, and then Liam was like, no, and then you can work together to make it to that final phase. Was that kind of how it normally would be, or would sometimes was he not really sure what he wanted to do and you would come up with that example and you would kind of work it through?
Pretty much what you just said. Yeah, everyone was different. Sometimes, like some might say, he had a very specific idea. Do you know what I mean? Less specific, roll with it. He just let me do what I wanted. So we had a close working relationship. We trusted each other. He trusted me, I should say. And I knew what he would or wouldn't like. So nothing ever got done that was going to get rejected. So it was just a very close working relationship. But everyone was different insofar as, and that was done on purpose. I hate it. I don't want to go into anything with a you know,
Hmm.
preordained view of it. The whole point to the stuff was everyone's like it's like a bespoke suit. I often make this analogy, like a tailor putting a suit for a
Hmm.
specific. It's the same. Every record is different, so the artwork had to be. So that was that.
Yeah, and I think it's so stylistically too. Like it is so like cool. Each album, even the singles, they have their own identity. And when I was doing some research for this, I found out so the Be Here Now album cover with them at the house, that wasn't the original idea. The original idea was to pick four different places that each of the members besides Liam wanted to go, and you would take
Mhm.
the individual photo shoot, and then Liam was going to be in the middle. And that
Mm.
like made me think, were there any other ideas that you had for maybe a single or different record or anything else that you had this idea almost happen, but then like just timing restraints or anything didn't work out, or is that kind of main one that you had that situation with?
That was kind of it, really. We everything else, and the only reason that was we didn't do that was just because of time. It wasn't anything to do with budget. I
Hmm.
think no one wanted to go to.
The
What
Wyoming.
Wyoming? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Devil's Tower. Where we're going to go next month. Actually, we're going to see Oasis in Chicago. Me and a couple of the guys here, and we're doing a crazy road trip.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I love American road trips.
Yes, and I want to talk about, which leads me to a next topic that I was emailing you about. So you just did an American road trip through the deep South, and you were in a lot of Mississippi and Alabama, and that's where I'm really familiar with. And so, for someone from the UK, I want to know, like, why did you choose to go over there? What was your experience, and just cultural differences, and what were some of the towns that you visited? Because I would love to know from your perspective, if however much you can talk about it. I don't know if this is from an upcoming project or anything.
No, 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 I could talk all about it. Well, I love America and I've traveled extensively in America. I've probably been to 30 odd states. The reason this trip came about was quickly I'll explain this. I saw a really good deal via Aer Lingus, the Irish airline,
Hmm.
from Manchester to New York, business class for next to nothing. So I booked it last year and I
Hmm.
thought, oh, I think of something to do. And my initial idea was I was going to do a road trip around New England.
Hmm.
I'd never been to all those little states up there, the northeast, like
Hmm.
Vermont, Rhode Island. And my goal is to tick all the states off, right?
Hmm.
But as it was coming, I wasn't getting excited about it. And I thought, you know what? Because I live in the north of England, in the Lake District, and I
Hmm.
suppose it's very similar to New England in that it's very green, hilly, lots of lakes, mountains. It's quite affluent in parts. It's very white. You know what I mean? Very
Hmm.
like New England. And I thought, I'm not getting excited about this. And I thought, oh, sod it. If I'm in America, I can get a flight anywhere within. So I got a flight to Memphis, right? And then
Yes.
I picked a car up in Memphis. And the idea was I was going to spend some time in the Mississippi Delta because that's basically where rock and roll came from in the first place.
Yes.
So, obviously Memphis with Elvis. But, if you listen to where Elvis came from, he was basically
Yeah.
singing blues, which is obviously a Mississippi thing. So I booked an Airbnb, this crazy place. I loved it. This big old, it was like an old store that was converted into an Airbnb in Clarksdale. And
Wow.
I stayed there for 3 nights. And then, so I did 3 days just touring around the Delta area, which I found fascinating, actually. And then I drove all the way across Mississippi into Alabama and I stopped in Tuscaloosa.
Yep, that's where I'm gonna be living.
Yeah, a big college town, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to school there.
Yeah, I stayed in Tuscaloosa. I was also in Troy, which is another big college
Yes,
town.
I've been to Troy too. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in Troy. And what I tried to do was stay away from the big cities. And because I'm fascinated by small town America, rural America. I think that's what of it's left, like the
Hmm.
old school. Everybody's sort of trying to hark back to this era that never really existed in the first place, aren't they? But anyway,
Hmm.
so I did a lot of driving around rural. Do you know what I ended up doing? Just photographing disused gas stations.
Yeah.
Seriously, I must have. I'm not joking, I must
Mhm.
have done about 60 of them,
There's
and I
so
was
many of them around here.
unbelievable. I mean, especially in Alabama, it was unbelievable, and all the pumps are still there because that was me sort of the pumps had to be there. That's because there's plenty of gas stations that have become all sorts of other things now, isn't there? But I couldn't, but because in this country, the pumps would be get removed and people would weigh the metal in and sell it to a scrap merchant. But over there,
Mhm.
they were everywhere. So I spent all my time photographing disused gas stations, basically, which is for a book project that I'm going to do. Anyway, after Alabama, I ended up driving down to Florida, Pensacola.
Wow, yeah,
Uh,
I grew up in Florida too. I grew up in Central Florida.
right.
So, yeah.
Then from Florida, I drove up into Georgia,
Oh, wow.
then back all the way through Alabama and Mississippi into Louisiana, uh, and then up into Arkansas,
Yeah.
uh, back to Memphis. Then I flew to New York and I flew home. But it's fantastic. I
Yeah.
was on my own as well. I did it all on my own. Uh,
Wow.
about 3,000 miles in total. And yeah, I loved it. And so what we're doing next is we're flying to New York in just over 3 weeks, getting a one-way flight to Chicago. Then we're going to pick up a big SUV,
Hmm.
right back to New York from
Hmm.
Chicago. But we thought it'd be an interesting project because you're behind us. So when we get there,
Hmm.
we're waking up at 6 in the morning, 5 in the
Yeah.
morning, 3 in the morning. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, on the first day, the day after the Oasis show in Chicago, we're going to get in the car. And I thought, let's drive 1,000 miles in the wrong direction. Right, that's the plan. So we looked at the map, and 1,000 miles in the wrong direction takes you to Mount Rushmore. Right,
Oh my
so
gosh.
in South Dakota. So we're going to drive there and then drive back to New York, photographing disused gas stations along the way.
Wow, I didn't even think about the gas station thing because I live in a really small town called Ripley, Mississippi, and there's like about 5,000 people here. Like it is very small. It's kind of like what you described of like lacking is like I live in that classic small town. Like we have an old little downtown area. It's like square, but it's just a few local businesses, and like we have a little blues alley because the blues music is big where we are, and we do like a yearly blues festival here. But when
What's
I
it called?
drive,
Ripley.
Ripley, yeah, Ripley, Mississippi.
Let's have a look where that is. Whereabouts is that then?
It's so do you know where like Tupelo, like where Elvis
Yeah.
was born? We're about 45 minutes from Tupelo. Um
Yeah, I have been to Tupelo previously, but right, I see where it is now. Yeah, yeah. I didn't get to that part of the state actually, but
yeah, it's really small. So it does kind of feel like you're living in back in time, but when I drive cuz I got my master's at Ole Miss. That's in Oxford, Mississippi. So that's like an hour away.
uh,
Because we're far away from everything. But I see those gas pumps all the time, and I see
it's
like
mad,
these
isn't it?
old buildings like all the time, and like you don't think like you're so
Yeah.
used to it that oh like that's just normal, like that's just how it is here. And so the fact that it's something that wasn't normal to you, I think is so interesting, like from other people's perspective about the South.
Yeah, yeah. So look out for my book, which will literally be called "Disused Gas Station."
Oh, I'm excited for that. Yeah, and I was even thinking, I was like, I wonder like how many people like in these areas like are going to travel to go to those Oasis shows, like because it's funny like liking something like Oasis in such like a small southern town.
Well, the thing is,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously, Oasis weren't as big in America as they are in the UK.
No.
But the big, I mean, they're playing stadiums, so it's obviously big enough. I mean, having said that, was it two in, well, it's New Jersey, in it, New York,
Hmm.
uh, one in Chicago, and two in LA.
Yeah, I'm gonna see
But
them in LA on Saturday.
you're going to the LA show, aren't you? Well,
Yes.
is it Rose Bowl, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be great. I mean, yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Uh, I saw Liam in DC actually in 2019 when he was on his solo stuff.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
and I saw Oasis in California in 1994. I saw them play in San Francisco and Sacramento. And I was at that gig in Los Angeles at the Whiskey A Go
I was
Go.
gonna mention that, yeah.
I was there, So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of they were never massive in America, but there's a lot of interest in America. Certain music heads appreciate British music,
Mhm.
they were like a cult band as opposed to like a U2 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the thing with the age thing's important. I think with Oasis, they did like what the Beatles. Very few bands do it where they cross the generational gap. So
Mhm.
basically, most bands tend to be popular amongst the age group that they are because the bands people were into them when they were 22 or something. But Oasis have, like I said, done what the Beatles have done, where people who weren't even born, like yourself, are now big fans of the band. You know what I mean? And it is unusual that it doesn't
Mhm.
happen very often. You know.
Yeah, I think that is so interesting. I usually like a lot of music that skews older too. Like I'm into a lot of rock and roll and stuff like that. Like I was raised on the Beatles, I was raised on classic rock, U2, all that. But I also really like a lot of the Americana, folky stuff, and so I go to a lot of shows where I'm usually the youngest person there. So I'm kind of used to that. But with the Oasis, I find it so interesting that they have a younger generation of a lot of fans like myself and even younger because I was 8 when they split.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I was
exactly.
really little.
Yeah, exactly. No, it is incredible. There's nothing to compare it to, and it's just been a pleasure working on the project.
Another thing I wanted to talk about while we're here is that, so I know like the singles and the album art are a huge thing, but another thing in the scope of Oasis and your work with them are the single posters, like all of the promo stuff. I was looking online, I found like, for the stuff like Morning Glory or all the picture where it's like just Liam's eye and the things like that, the promotional stuff that you put out of record shops. What was that like, and what was it like kind of doing all of this marketing pre-internet? Because I'm sure when you're doing like if you were to do a rollout for a single now, it would be a completely different process than, doing the photo shoots, then putting them outside the record shops and having the posters and everything. But I think those posters are so iconic. I've even seen them in like the Oasis pop-up shops and things like that.
Right, the point with them was you've hit the nail on the head. they weren't designed as merchandise posters. They were designed as promotional items. They were designed to sell the record. And in the UK at that time, pre-internet, obviously, those posters would be illegally as well, fly posted all around town, right? So I'll just grab one now for you.
Oh yeah, I love that one.
So the idea is, and this is an original from back in the day. This is 30 years old.
Hmm.
Point is, somebody be riding on a bus through the middle of London or Manchester or Glasgow, wherever it might be, and there'd just be a row of these. So the idea was, bang, logo, you can't miss it. Telling the title of the single and the fact it's out now. That's it. It's about conveying information quick and effectively.
Yes.
And that's basically it, really. So, and they follow that basic style. They've all got the big logo, all got a sleeve image or a derivative of it, and yeah, well, they still look great 30 years on, I think.
Yeah, and I love too, and I also love that it's all uniform. Like they didn't have their own completely different style. They all you knew it was like branding. It was like it's almost like kind of like they're a brand of their self. Like it's a like almost like a corporate thing. Like you see the logo, you see the picture at the bottom, and you see the text. Like it's all very cohesive, and I love that.
Yeah, and that's because the same person did it throughout the whole duration. Do you see what I
Hmm.
mean? It's like
Yeah.
me and a very small team. We've always had a small team. There's never been many of us. There's only three of us now. But
Hmm.
when we did that, there's me and Matthew and Martin. Three of us did all that, and that's it. Because cohesive, that's the right word. Brands get diluted when other people start fiddling with it, or too many cooks spoiling the broth. You know what I mean? We had total control over it. I decided how it was going to look, and I did everything. So it all looked had a style to it, which worked obviously. And 30 years on, people still comment on it, So
Well, yeah, that's awesome. And so, kind of wrapping things up, I also wanted to talk about so you have a store in person, but you also have an online shop. And I want you to tell us a little bit about that because there's a lot of cool things that you can get on your store, both in person
yeah.
and online.
Well, the web address is all the W's microdotboutique.com.
Yes, I'll put it in the all of the bios and everything for this.
Okay. And we ship to America every day of the week. We've got a lot of
Mhm.
customers and fans in America, so that's not a problem. We can ship to the States. We do ship to the States daily. And what have we got? Well, lots of stuff you can't buy anywhere else because it's not the stuff that you see at the gigs. So,
Mm-mm.
that's an entirely different thing. Ours is a bit more, what more fan, sort of hardcore fan focused, I would say. Not taking anything away from just the generic stuff that they sell at the gigs and that, but
Hmm.
it's more like outtakes from sleeves. There's often sort of hit design history workings, how I got to the logo in the end. What else is there?
There's some sketches.
Yeah, just stuff that only comes from
Yeah, like
us.
the definitely maybe I like the project that you did with Liam where it was all of like Liam's sayings that you wrote in your handwriting
Yeah,
and that you phrased them.
exactly.
Like I
Yeah.
love that.
So yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. We're selling stuff that is, um, it's just a wee bit more thought goes into it, I think, and it's a bit more for, like I said, the hardcore fan, um, who perhaps wants something that, a bit more thought has gone into, I guess. So.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. I was looking at it last night. I was like, okay, there's so many things that like I want to put up in my apartment and like have a gallery.
Yeah. Well, yeah, drop us a line. I'm sure we can sort you something out.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love it. I was like having so much fun looking through all this stuff. So, kind of wrapping up, anything else that we kind of didn't talk about that you want to talk about with like, I don't know, if the reunion or any other things with Microdot that's not Oasis related?
Well, just an update on our own little brand at Microdot, that is. When Oasis announced the reunion, it was almost a year ago now. It was last August the
Hmm.
announcement was made. We didn't know anything about it, right?
Hmm.
So it caught us off guard as much as anybody else. And we had loads of plans to be doing other stuff. And we've had to put everything on hold because this year has just been all about Oasis.
Hmm.
But what we're doing going forward is we're trying to, I'm going to get him, I can't just keep banging on about Oasis for the rest of my life. As much as I love them,
Yeah.
I am an artist and I've got other things
Yes.
to a disused gas station thing, that's one. And
Yes.
there's a few other projects, and we've invested into more high-end stuff. We've got our own printing facility and our own framing facility, and we're making more sort of gallery, high-end inspired pieces. I like to get into doing some books of my work, photographic books.
Hmm.
I mean, this is all niche stuff. It'll never make me rich, but I enjoy doing it, and
I love stuff like that. I love art books and
so that's where we're headed. Oasis will always be there for us. I mean, why, you'd be a fool to turn your back on it, wouldn't you?
mhm.
I love it very much, and it's the project that defined my career. But I also want to get doing some of my own stuff, and just beautifully presented, beautifully studied photography. In really handmade, bespoke frames. That's where we're going with it all.
Yeah, and what I've learned, like doing all the research, is that you have like a commitment to like high quality stuff, even like the way that you print your posters and everything. It's very top notch.
Well, it's got to be, hasn't it? Because my name's on all of this, and
Yes.
I stand by it all, and it's a passion project more than I never. Unlike most businesses, I mean, it is run like a business now, but it never was. The money was the last of my issues. That was the last thing on my mind. Whereas
Hmm.
conventional business is set up to make money. I was just interested in creating beautiful pieces of art, that would like stand the test of time, which we have done.
Yeah.
And everything we do is done to the best of our ability, given any time or budget constraints that are put upon us. You've got to be. I do a lot of college lecturing as well, and I always say
Yeah.
to the students, not every job you do will be brilliant, and some of you will be better than others, but you've got to be able to put your hand on your heart at the end of any given project and say, I did my best. That is the best it could possibly be under the circumstances at the time. And if you can say that to yourself and genuinely mean it, you're on a winner.
Yeah, that is amazing advice. Well, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I learned so much, and it was just so fun to talk about Oasis and all of your work. And I look forward to seeing your book about the gas stations and checking out the stuff on the shop and see what else you do this year. So thank you so much.
I'm flattered that you're interested. Thank you.